in a seated shape, you're more than welcome to. If you want to begin practice laying down, that's okay too. It's all good. Having your props around you, pillows, blankets, bolsters, blocks, or whatever you want to use to support yourself throughout practice. And then we'll allow ourselves to get started. So feel free to shift around within your seat, or if you're laying down tonight, feel free to shift around. And when you're ready, you can close your eyes and take a moment here in stillness. Of course, if closing the eyes is too much, too quick, you're more than welcome to just keep the gaze soft and not looking at anything specific. So here, we'll just take that moment to begin to notice the body. Can we allow ourselves to soften into the shape here, releasing, or at least beginning to release through the muscles and bones? Beginning to soften through our layers of skin and the layers of fascia that we know will begin to stretch in just a few moments. And for now, can we notice the sounds and textures of the breath? Can we welcome ourselves into the practice of Yin, where we constantly lean into these aspects of winter? And we can do this in any season, of course, but maybe tonight we can kind of reflect upon it. The aspects of winter in terms of the stillness, in terms of the stability, in terms of the structure. Our Yin shapes have us harness those same energetics. But within that, there is this space of fluidity. We get to notice the breath, where we use it to keep warm. We get to notice the gaze at the backs of the eyelids, noticing the internal screen. Coming into a place very much like winter that asks us to reflect, that asks us to pause, so that we can notice exactly what's in front of us. And our springs and our summers are here to help us take action, but fall, and especially our winter, is moving us into these ideas of saying, well, how can we rest to nourish? How can we come into this pulse of earth, of winter, to nourish ourselves within these darker spaces? So if you had to pick one theme of practice tonight, maybe you'll contemplate on this idea of renewal. Maybe you'll contemplate on this idea of nourishment. Or whatever else is coming to your mind. So I invite you to welcome all intentions. So with those in mind, we'll first take a full cleansing breath here. Together, we'll inhale through the nose and open the lips to exhale. Here, you can keep your hands relaxed within the lap, or you can gather them into prayer at heart center. You can take another cleansing breath just as we did, or maybe you join me for the sound of Om. But together, we'll take a deep breath in. Om. Very gently bowing the chin towards the chest. Just taking a moment to allow the breath and the vibrations to settle within the heart space, to reverberate off the walls of the inner body, and to seal our intentions for practice. So whenever you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes. You can bring the hands away. We'll allow ourselves to arrive here. We're going to technically start in like a triple stretch, which is a fun thing to say. So we're going to start in straight leg pigeon, and I'll show you, but if you already know what that is, feel free to just go to it. Straight leg pigeon, then we're going to move into dragonfly, and then we're going to go into the opposite side of straight leg pigeon. So As we allow ourselves to turn, I'll just turn this way so at least you can see, the left leg will come out to the side as the right knee bends in. Right? Now, if I were to sit flat upon my tailbone, I would forward fold, but straight leg pigeon is taking us up and over the left thigh. So we're allowing ourselves to fold over the thigh. Okay, so if I come to the side now, just so that you can see this at a different angle, left leg straightens out, and then position yourself, right? You can sit upon your left hip. The toes don't have to point up. You can move your foot with you to allow your pinky toe to reach towards the floor. And then, of course, finding your blocks or your pillows and your blankets and things, and how you want to support the fold. It might be helpful to support your left hip, just like we would in pigeon. Right? Maybe your back right knee. Right? If you feel like your right hip is extra tight, or just this pose is kind of challenging you within sensation, prop your right knee so that it can relax. Your left leg here does not have to be locked straight. So you might keep a little bit of a bend. That's helpful as you fold. Okay, so we'll start here and then we'll transition into dragonfly, and I'll explain what dragonfly is later. From there, we'll take the opposite side of straight leg pigeon and then we'll rebound. So as you begin to reposition your props, reposition the body, you're welcome to close your eyes and find stillness whenever you're ready. Beginning to notice the sensations of stretch here. Beginning to find the breath. And as we allow ourselves and our awareness to begin to dance around the body here, we can begin to let go of unnecessary tension and release unnecessary control. If our intentions are to awaken this sense of renewal, to find this deeper sense of nourishment, we first have to bring ourselves to that space. And keeping our bones clenching and keeping our muscles gripping, if anything, that would disconnect us. So be patient first as we begin to settle into this first shape. Letting ourselves arrive into the body. Just take another breath or two in straight leg pigeon. And of course, if you'd like to stay here, you can. Or let's gently press down into the floor. We'll start to walk ourselves up and out of the shape, no rush. That back right leg is going to unravel. So now both legs are in a V shape. Okay. Within this V shape, we might take new blocks or reposition the blocks or reposition our props. Maybe you'll find something to place underneath your tailbone just to help with the fold. And we'll transition right into dragonfly. And maybe on your own, you took a few counter movements if you felt that you needed them. Within your own time, whether you sit a little taller and hug the props around the body or you choose to fold. And then whenever you're ready, we'll close our eyes and begin to arrive. Feel free to follow those internal cues as you readjust. And begin to soften whenever you're ready. And as you breathe into the body here, and softening into the layers of muscle, the layers of bone. We can feel that space of renewal from the previous stretch. Still welcoming the present experience from Dragonfly itself. Within this idea of renewal, we get to lean into these spaces of wisdom, whether it's the mind, the heart, the body, maybe a blend. Within your dragonfly shape, allow the body to take maybe 1 or 2 more breaths. Of course, you can stay here a little longer if you'd like to, or very slowly. We'll gently press down. We'll lift up our head and chest. And not thinking too much about this, you might find a little counter movement, right? But we're going to continue to move the body forward, just one more stretch. And you might bring your props to the opposite side, right? Starting to transition to your right thigh. Left knee bends back behind you, and you'll take your straight leg pigeon to the opposite shape. Okay? And instead of kind of transitioning that way, you might move your body to the opposite side, right? The way you maybe have been on the first side. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be that same type of flow. Just do what's best for you. However you end up facing in any direction, you're on your right hip. That right knee might bend in a bit. Left knee bending back behind you. You allow the body to fold. The toes, right, don't have to stay facing the ceiling. They can flow to the floor with you. Maybe the pinky edge of the toe is touching the floor, or at least reaching towards it. The space of renewal allows us to observe how, even if the physical body is still, the energetic body is always moving, the internal body is always moving. Even externally, as the plants and animals shift their habits as well, they too experience this time of stillness. They too experience this aspect of renewal. Where it's the shedding of leaves, or the drying of bark, or the shedding of external skin. There's a part that is decaying so that we can then renew. And symbolically, we can meditate on what we might feel is decaying within our own energetic fields, or thought patterns, or behaviors. We can breathe those ideals into the space of renewal, renourishment, rejuvenation. And whenever you're ready, very slowly, let's begin to press down into the floor, into the props whenever you're ready. And here we then get to personalize the practice. There's no next stretch specifically to get into. So how does the body unravel you? Do you fold again over straight legs? Do the arms reach up tall? Does the body bring you maybe forward into the child's pose? Does the body bring you back down so that you can hug your knees into the chest? This idea of warmth, connection. How can we observe and reflect on those previous 3 experiences now that we're in rebound? It's almost as if the first stretch was spring, the second stretch was summer, the third stretch was fall, and now our rebound here is winter, where we just pause. And as we observe all those subtle sensations through our actions and decisions, watching the fascia, we can take that mindful moment of resonance. What did those previous 3 seasons look like, feel like? What was learned or discovered? And pausing for another breath. Feeling the resetting of the physical body, the resetting of the energetic body. And this resetting is just like the renewal space. So if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But if you're ready to transition, you might move the arms and move the legs in some sort of shape. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. We just want to awaken from rebound, take your time. And then we're going to talk about the next stretches here. So that will kind of be like our theme for practice. We're going to do 3 poses, and then that will take us into rebound instead of doing pose, rebound, which is also my favorite, but just for the theme of class, we'll do 3 poses and then rebound. Okay, so our next set here, I'll show you the 3, or at least name them as we talk about it. What we're going to first come into is a twist. So option 1 is to hug the knees into the chest, and as you twist to the right, you're going to have your left leg on top. Now, if you want a supine twist, you can find your props here, and maybe you're going to prop the outer right thigh, or prop the blanket or pillow in between your thighs, right? So whichever is most helpful, especially in supportive of this top hip. However, if you'd like to come into the extension of that, you might take a block to the side of you, and as you readjust your hip and shoulder, you can allow this left leg to extend out, right? And that will deepen the stretch a bit. You might take a layer of blanket or pillow and prop the left knee so that it kind of bends a little bit. It's almost like straight leg pigeon, really, but we're in the twist. We're on our back. So this is where we're going to start, right? You're either going to be in supine or you're going to extend. From there, we're going to let ourselves roll onto our belly. After that stretch, we're going to take open wing, right? And so we'll bring our right arm out to T, and then we roll into the shoulder. We'll take that. And then after open wing, we're going to come into dove. So if you're starting to learn some of these names, you might have the pictures in your head, but I'll explain everything as we get there, just so you know that's where we're going. So let's start in the twist. Then we're going to move into an upper body, and then we'll move into a lower body. So for now, let yourself take some adjustments. Find the best place to begin, not looking for the deepest stretch, the quickest. But each breath is taking you to a deeper layer here within the body. Or maybe each breath here is guiding you into the deeper layers of the mind or heart, depending on what you find yourself exploring. And just like the transition from fall to winter, the days do get shorter, the nights do get longer. And the solstice, the winter solstice, is the final mark of that. So it's almost as if when you guide yourselves in the meditation here, you're in more of that fall energetic state. Each breath takes you more and more into the experience. Breathing into the deeper layers. Looking into those other aspects of darkness at the gaze behind the eyelids. Within your twist, take another full round of breath. And then very slowly, no rush to this, we'll begin to unravel. Then you might guide your arms to lower down. You might let your right hand help release the left leg and then the right leg. And feel free to find some counter movement, right? The fascia is still lengthening, so we can't forget that. If you want to windshield wiper the knees or stretch the arms up and above the head, you can. But instead of letting the body transition into rebound, we'll let ourselves roll onto the belly. And you might roll to your right in the same place we were just twisting. As you come to the space of the belly, you might have a pillow to support your head. Your right arm is going to come out to T. And then as you roll into the shoulder, we're stacking the hips. So we're coming right into that open wing space. And if you're used to these poses, which most of us are, right? It kind of seems, you find the fluidity of it. And if you're new to it, it's okay. Right? Take your time arriving in each shape. There's lots of parts. You might start with your knees bent into the chest if that's beneficial for your back tonight. You might straighten your legs. You might allow that left knee to bend in and the foot to come flat to the floor like a kickstand. However, that left foot can also step in front of your right thigh if you want. Whether your left palm stays in front of the chest or you'll pick up the arm and bind behind the back, you're welcome to. And we're arriving. Let the body begin to soften here. Beginning to let the body release any unnecessary tension or unnecessary control. Transitioning and welcoming ourselves into this newer aspect, this newer season. And just like we have a pulse to every breath, it's almost as if each season is the pulse, right, of Earth. And how can we align with that pulse? How can we respect that space of renewal, the shift between darkness and lightness, and honoring those qualities and aspects of ourselves? Staying present with the breath here. As we keep the right arm still, if the left arm is behind us, we'll unravel that arm, reach it to the ceiling, bring it in front of the chest. Taking one leg upon the other as we roll out of the shoulder and onto the belly. And you can take a moment on your belly here, letting your arms relax wherever you'd like them to. You might bend into the knees, and as you kick up the feet, it could feel relaxing to rock into the hips. Still transitioning out of the stretch, and in this moment of counter movement, you'll reflect on some subtle sensations or the release of the body here. But as we allow the legs to relax, right, we'll get enough energy just to take one more stretch. So let's roll ourselves onto our back. Just moving slowly and calmly, right? Just very fluid movement, right? No right or wrong. You don't have to think too strategically. And this is going to guide us into dove. So knees are bent, right knee opens out to the side. And again, this is a pretty familiar stretch too if you've been with me, but if it's new, your right foot might stay relaxed where it is, or you're going to walk underneath the left thigh. That right foot could just glide. If you need to prop your right hip, do so. If you need to prop your left hip, do so. Let your arms relax on the body, off of the body, up above the head. Feeling the difference when we go from stretch to stretch. By now, maybe the body is a little more willing to soften. Feeling these blends of sensations. Just like each season, each thread of tissue is interconnected to the next, connecting us in one whole piece. Beginning to soften if you haven't already. Just witnessing sensations here. Reminding us that we're riding that edge, hovering between that place of comfort and discomfort, which might be very similar to a winter space. What else can you absorb here within the last moments of the stretch? Where else can the body nourish you or grant you permission to feel? No rush at all. But whenever you're ready, we'll begin to lower the arms down by the hips. And then within your own time, you'll start to release from dove. And whether that could be holding one knee into the chest, maybe you hug both knees into the chest and rock gently. This is where we'll take all of our counter movements, if desired, to then transition into rebound. So just notice the awareness of your body. Your hands might massage in particular muscle groups. Your body might want to stay on your back. You might come up to sit. You might end up on your belly. But once we enter into that space to rebound, it's almost like a mini Shavasana, where you feel the subtle sensations of the fascial tissue contracting and making its way back. Where we notice this reclaimed space or expansion of breath. And softening even in your rebound space. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to stay. If you're choosing to take the next sides of our sequence, then you might gently begin to awaken from rebound, if that's moving through the wrists and ankles or moving through the legs and arms. From there, as we bend into our knees, we might pick up the hips for a moment, readjust the tailbone, settle it back down. And then if you're using any props to twist, you might bring those things to the left side. So now the right leg is on top. But as we pick up the knees into the chest, we'll twist to the left, whether that's going to be a supine twist or you extend your right leg out to the side. So at that point, you might use a pillow or blanket just to support in between the thighs, the bottom knee. If you're allowing the leg to extend out, right, the right leg might lift up a little bit past the left knee as you're twisting here so that the foot can settle on a block or some sort of prop. You might bend the knee a little bit as well. Okay, so definitely don't lock the knee, but sometimes bending the knee slightly and taking a blanket or pillow there could also drive the stretch in a particular area of the thigh. So you're welcome to explore. You might scooch that left shoulder blade underneath you a bit, twisting a little bit more through the upper body, letting the hands and arms relax in any type of shape. And then whenever you're ready, we'll let ourselves gently arrive. And taking a few transitory breaths as we arrive into the space, arriving into the totality of our awareness. At this particular time, it's called a solstice because it appears as if, or the sun appears as if it is standing still. Maybe we can connect to that sensation of stillness as we're in our stretches and as we're in our shapes this evening. Take a few more breaths exactly where we are. And then whenever you're ready, moving slowly, no rush to this as you first awaken the arms. Maybe your hands help release one leg at a time as you unravel. You might find a counter movement. Maybe the legs, torso, arms want to move in some sort of particular shape, allowing that. We might feel this energetic pull to go into rebound, right? But we're going to use a little bit more of our energy here as we roll onto the belly. We're going to move now into open wing on the left side. So as you roll onto your belly, your left arm will come out to T. So you're just going to bring it out to the side there. Your shoulder touches the floor. And as you roll into that left shoulder, your left hand is behind you. Or for whatever reason, if you did this arm already, just go to the opposite side. It's fine. No strict rules. So wherever you are, though, again, you might start with your knees high into the chest. That might be most beneficial for your lower body. If you'd like to, you can straighten the legs. You can allow that right knee to bend in and the foot will come flat to the floor behind you or in front of the thigh. The right hand here resting in front of you like another kickstand, or the arm can rest at the hip, rest behind the back, whatever feels comfortable for the shoulder. Beginning to settle. Not only does our season of winter help resemble this aspect of stillness, but it also resembles the aspect of quiet. Regardless of the sounds in other rooms and regardless of the sounds outside of your windows, by just practicing yin and coming into this meditative space, we do feel this blanket of quiet encircling us or encompassing us, surrounding us. How can we lean into that quieter space? What can we notice as we allow ourselves to tune in? And then here within open wing, let's take another full cycle of breath. As we keep the left arm still, if your right arm is behind the back, we can lift the arm up and above the head, take a full body stretch just to the side anyway, as the palm comes back in front of you. One leg on top of the other until you're ready to roll out of the shoulder and come back upon the belly. Letting your hands and arms relax in any shape. Again, you might find this rocking to the hips, or you could kick up the knees and windshield wiper them from side to side. Maybe another movement calls for you. Once you notice that you've taken enough counter movement, even though this particular stretch, this rebound after this stretch is my favorite one, but we're going to muster up some energy and we're going to roll onto our back. Just one more stretch until we could take rebound. So letting ourselves now arrive into dove. You might let your arms come up above the head, right? They might take this cactus shape if that feels good, and still calming for the shoulders. And just come to the opposite side of your dove. It might be the right thigh, it might be the left thigh. And again, as that knee comes out to the side, you might be propping it if helpful, maybe propping your tailbone if helpful. And then beginning to settle in. as our own energetic body matches or affirms the cyclical aspect of nature. And as we align within that wintry space, what else do we see that the body can release, that the body can let go of? Letting the unnecessary tension decay, so that these knots, that these fibers within the tissues can uncoil and lengthen and have their own journey of renewal. Checking in with your breath. Breathing as deeply or as quietly as you'd like. And still an active representation of your renewal. As the breath is cleansed within the space of the body. And then from here, you might take another full cycle of breath and dove until you're ready to begin to release. Whether your arms move first or the legs move first, just take your time. Letting the body unravel, finding any counter movements. Maybe the knees hug into the chest, maybe the legs reach up to the ceiling. And sometimes it's just natural movement for the body. Sometimes you'll make similar yoga shapes. After that time and stillness, we get to transition into that freeing space, that expansion, that renewal. We'll get to pause in our rebound, whatever that looks like for you. Facing any direction within the room, facing any angle along the floor. And just letting the body resonate here. Maybe feeling that connection from head to toe. But even through the distance from the fascia in the shoulder to the fascia in the hip to the fascia in the ankle, they are still threaded within the same tissues, cradled within the same space of the body. Maybe just taking another full cycle of breath within your rebound pose. And then whenever you're ready, of course, you can stay exactly where you are, or you might begin to awaken just to find some movements to the arms and some movements to the legs. You might even press, if you're laying down anyway, you could press your feet into the floor, into a wall, and just lift up the hips depending on where you are. That feels good. And then eventually we'll draw ourselves back to a seated shape. No rush to get there. And taking any movements along the way. We haven't sat in a while. But I would like us to stretch a bit into our feet before fully taking Shavasana. So let's allow ourselves to walk into our tabletop shape. We'll bring the knees closer together, and as we allow our toes to tuck, sitting back on the heels. But of course, before doing that, you might bring some blocks and things in front of you. Lean forward, right? You can support your forearms. Your hands might gently touch, but try not to interlace the fingertips, right? Especially if that's going to cause a gripping. So just let the hands relax, but the fingertips can touch. Whether your chin is neutral, maybe your chin is slightly lifted, maybe your chin is tucked, so feel free to do whatever you'd like to explore. Whenever you're ready, we'll arrive into our toe stretch here. Breathing into more than just the toes, the soles of the feet, the ankles, the shins. If the body wants to grip and disconnect, where can we allow the body to soften as the body thrives on that connection? Continue to allow the breath to stay present. We'll be here for just a few more cycles. And then whenever you're ready, let's begin to hinge forward here. Palms will come towards the floor, and as you slowly untuck one foot at a time, you're welcome to drum the tops of the feet. You're welcome to shake the feet, roll the ankles, wiggle the toes. Maybe even taking a few rounds of cat-cow if that feels good for the spine. And then we'll come to sit down just to move into ankle stretch. So we'll do the counter of that. And as you sit, of course, you can always come into Virasana or Hero's Pose if you'd like to, sitting on a block. But if you want to sit on the heels and just pause there, you can. If you let the ankles relax just a bit, you might find a blanket or a pillow to draw underneath your shins. And with the lift of the knees, you might get a little more stretch. For me, though, keeping my knees on the floor and hugging my ankles in towards each other is more of my edge, right? So feel free to explore and just honoring the edge wherever it is. And then again, we'll pause. Notice how the rest of the body responds. Is the jaw tightening? Is the belly gripping? Are the glutes clenching? Is there this disconnect cut off from the lower body? And if there is, our reaction isn't to shame, but the reaction is to let's soften, let's breathe. Where can we release the unnecessary tension? How can we assist ourselves within this time of stillness? And just a few more cycles of breath here. And then whenever you're ready, we can begin to shift any props out of our way. And as we start to come forward, maybe one more tabletop shape as you release the legs, move through the feet, maybe again, a few rounds of cat and cow. Seems comforting to the body. And you're welcome to take any final last movements, any final stretches, reaches, counter movements, just honoring that personalized movement or the intuitive movement of the body. And then, of course, we'll let ourselves come back to lay down so that we can take our final rebound of practice, which is Shavasana. So in doing so, you might have a pillow for the head, you might have a blanket to cover the body. Maybe you use no props at all. But let's allow ourselves to gravitate towards stillness. Noticing this humming, this buzzing, this pulse within the body. And as we absorb our practice, let's welcome ourselves to Shavasana. Very gently. And let's begin to deepen our breath. And welcoming ourselves back into the space of our bodies as we notice the placement of our hands and feet. Just like the flicker of light, we can awaken and welcome some gentle movement. The flickering of the wrists, the flickering of the ankles, wiggling the fingers and toes. From here, you can stretch your arms up and above the head and take a full body stretch. Knees might bend in and you can hug the knees into the chest if that feels comforting. Maybe even draw the forehead up to the knees and stretch from the back body until you're ready to roll to one side, either the left or the right. And feeling the release of the back. Breath of fresh air along the spine. You can either stay here or gently press down and come back up to sit. So your choice, however you'd like to end class. And from there, we'll reclose the eyes in case they've opened, and again, find stillness. And just taking that moment of reflection. Where we can reflect upon the space of renewal as we can sense reclaimed space, expansion, clarity. And your hands might stay relaxed within the lap, or your hands can be gathered into prayer. As we take one cleansing breath, or join me for the sound of Om, but together we'll breathe in. Om. And gently bowing the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.